overall just going to help you be more calm, focused, and alert before trading begins, so that you're just, like I said, ready to really execute. So I want to talk about what a trading prep routine can actually look like. So I just put a little poll in the chat. Click whichever one you think resonates with you guys. Do you currently not have any real trading routine? In which case you kind of just like wake up and roll out of the charts or trade out in your bed, like off your phone. Two is maybe, a middle ground where you at least kind of, brush your teeth, get some breakfast, get your coffee, whatever, at least like, kind of get ready for the day. And then three is kind of what we're going to be going over fully today, which is like a really full trade routine. So let me know in the chat what you guys typically do right now. Just click whichever one of those emojis resonates with you. So we've got a couple people that are doing 2 and 3. Okay, a couple people with full trading routines. So this is a trading Discord, so not too surprised. But yeah, I just want to start out with that to see kind of where people are at, because I was chatting with Matt pretty recently, the CMO of FX Replay, and he was like, it's pretty basic to have a trading routine, but given the fact that there's really no formal education for trading, a lot of people haven't really heard of backtesting, haven't heard of all these fundamentals of trading that are really important, and a proper trading routine is just as important as many of those things. So it's something that I've actually personally been really trying to focus on and make it a little more specific and focused for me. And so I wanted to share some insights that I've been working on with Matt that have been helping me out to hopefully give you guys some ideas so that you can actually implement this for yourself. I do want to say, kind of as a preface, this is really more important after you've at least like identified an edge. Like, you could be the most prepared person as possible, but if you don't have an edge that you're trading, obviously you're probably not going to get super consistent results. Obviously, it is important to put in the time to backtest, forward test, get screen time, optimize. Try a lot of things to identify that edge first, but once you've found it, this trading preparation routine can really help reinforce the proper execution that you need to make sure you're actually showing up and executing the trades. And as I've listened to more and more podcasts, like pretty much every professional and super successful trader has a very consistent pre-market routine, maybe night before and pre-market. Kind of depends on how much stuff you need to go over. But yeah, today I'm going to go over why is it so important to have a trading prep routine. We're going to talk about a bunch of ideas, and hopefully kind of talk with some of you. It does seem like a few of you have some trading prep routines, so definitely want to kind of ask you guys if there's things you found super helpful or not helpful. And then at the end, we'll just have some time for Q&A. So with that, we'll kind of go into the next slide, which is why is this so important? Can't I just roll up to my desk and trade? And I really like to compare trading to an athlete. Obviously, it is a performance based thing, and the biggest benefit number one is it gives you that opportunity to really like check in and like warm up. Like, most pro athletes don't just like roll up to the stadium and jump into a game. They have like a hour long. They not only like prep their meals before time to make sure they're like physically ready, but also like stretching, warming up, doing some basics to get there, get everything kind of in line, ready for the what they want to focus on. And just in general, like routines and positive habits like influence the outcomes for sure. Like, it helps make sure you're executing correctly. Obviously, as an athlete, like the warm up helps limit your injuries, which maybe as a trader is more of like mistakes. I would say, we're not going to probably pull a hamstring or something trading, but we're definitely very prone to mistakes, and having a proper like preparation and warm up can help limit those mistakes, which can be really costly. Not only that, but it helps you really focus on what you want to look at and what you want to look for. We'll talk very specifically about kind of the importance of a pre-trading analysis and like reviewing and reinforcing like that your A+ setup, so that like you've already kind of seen what you want to look for, so it's easier to see it when you get kind of in the live environment. Then also really it helps you kind of have an opportunity to set the proper expectations and goals. A lot of you might know that a lot of causes for people to get upset either with each other or in general is unmet expectations. And as a trader, we have a lot of opportunities to set appropriate expectations so that there's less chances that we're going to be upset because something happened that we didn't expect. Setting reasonable expectations. And then lastly, just make sure you're ready to lock in. Like, I used to have quite a lot of opportunities that like, dang, like slept in a little more than I should have, or like I wasn't like fully logged in time. So if you have a proper training prep routine, there's going to be no more missed opportunities from not being ready. So really a ton of important reasons for it, and kind of high level. I was talking to Matt, and he was like, this should be something that gives you energy. Like if your trading preparation feels like homework or like a boring task, whatever elements like feel like that, you can either skip those or restructure. This should be something that gets you like energized and excited, like and an alert for the trading day. It shouldn't take a whole lot of time. I think like up to an hour. Mine's currently like 20-30 minutes. Like it really doesn't have to be super long. Obviously, if you're going to like the gym or something, maybe the whole process can take a little longer. But the specific like I guess mental work can be a shorter time, and overall just going to help you be more calm, focused, and alert before trading begins, so that you're just like I said ready to really execute. So I want to talk about what a trading prep routine can actually look like, and as I kind of showing this, there's really no one size fits all. Like I'm going to give you guys a lot of ideas for what you can kind of play around with for a trading prep routine. But some of you like are going to hate some of these, and some of you are going to love some of these. And like I said, there's options for a lot of these as well. And I also want to take a moment in the chat after we get through these to ask you guys what are some things that worked well for you. So these are kind of 4 optional ones that I think you could implement some or all of them, kind of just play around, see what you think resonates with you. But I think the one that's really helpful, I think, is like, should I actually be trading today? Maybe you slept like absolute crap the night before, or got in a fight with your girlfriend, or like, I actually like literally a month and a half ago had somebody like back into my car and like wrecked my car. They weren't insured, and I had like this big external stressor that of course impacted my trading. So like having this moment to do a little check-in and see like, should I be trading today? Like, am I feeling, some type of way that maybe it's best to just close the charts today? It can be super, super valuable to help you like avoid trading the days you shouldn't. And so that's kind of a good opportunity to just have that initial check-in. And then this is again kind of something that I like to do personally. Could be, maybe some people don't want to do this, but I feel like it can be helpful to have like a little pep talk. And like I think one way to think about this is, imagine like someone over your, you can like close your eyes and do this. It's kind of funny, but it does work really well. Like imagine like someone over your shoulder that like knows you super well. Maybe you think of them as like a coach, or like a friend that just like knows you super well, and can just like give you that kind of encouragement, validation, great job for everything you're doing. Like you're moving the right direction, as long as you focus on doing what you should be doing today. And I think just as importantly, maybe if you kind of think through in the past, and this is something like collecting data on yourself is helpful too, like what are things you've identified that have caused, negative triggers in the past? It could be boredom. Like maybe you've sat in front of the charts for like 3 hours and you just start taking trades you shouldn't. Maybe you've been in a trade recently and like Trump tweets something and you get really like, triggered from that because it was an unexpected outcome. And so you're, really annoyed by that, and maybe it triggered some over trading, revenge trading, anything you can think of. I used to have a therapist that said Michael Phelps used to really do visualizations and like imagine himself he's a swimmer, for those of you who don't know. He would, visualize starting a swim race and like jumping in the water and his goggles fill up with water. And so like imagining a very like adverse situation and how he would work through it. And the whole point of that is to maybe like, give yourself an opportunity to visualize, these very like likely outcomes, so that when they do happen, you're in a better position to respond to them versus just being super reactive and emotional. So that could be something you try with. Something that kind of folds into the Profit Playbook podcast, and Matt was doing. He said he did a couple weeks ago. Like in terms of very specific things you can work on with trading, like what have you already worked on that you've kind of proven to yourself you're really good at? So maybe you've really worked hard at risk management, and you're like, I don't, risk more than X per trade. I don't have blow up days. I make sure to hold my trades. I don't close them early. I take the trades that my strategy presents. Like, what have you proven you're already good at? Maybe there's some consistency reinforcements. I've got some ideas from Mark Douglas's Trading in the Zone in the appendix. You guys can kind of look at what are some things you want to just kind of reinforce that the consistency, and then what's your weekly goal in general. And this is again kind of going back to what Matt was saying, like what specific kind of improvement piece do you want to focus on? It shouldn't be a dollar amount. It should be, I want to try and take as many trades that my strategy presents this week, or I want to try not to take any trades that my strategy, like discretionary trades. Maybe I want to focus on not taking any of those this week, or whatever it may be, whatever your weekly focus is, try and set some intention around that. And then lastly, I really love this kind of last one, and I actually might take a moment to kind of ask you guys in chat. I really think it's helpful to have some sort of relaxation and or focus opportunity. And it looks like somebody's got a fun story, so maybe we'll ask him to share. But whether it's putting in your headphones and just like doing a breath exercise for 5-10 minutes, maybe breathe in for 4 count, hold for 2, and exhale for like 6 count. For those of you that haven't done meditation, it's something I highly recommend, but it does take a little time to kind of get used to it. Some people just like going for a walk or a run. I think a lot of the guys at SMB Capital like have to go to the gym before they trade or something. Shower is also super helpful to like focus and get some mental clarity. So again, you can play around with, whatever you feel works for you, but a lot of these things could be good. So I see a couple things in the chat that I want to talk to. So Fab said he had the funniest week last week. Greed got the best of me last week when I look back at it. Yeah, and like that's what like post trade reflection is super helpful. You can like review like what were these triggers that got me, and how can I try to prepare for them, or be more aware of them in the future. And then OGC's got a couple questions. So how can I counter the check and do you know your character? He picks a day on Sundays to kind of do a preparation. I used to do preparation on Sundays too. Now I do it every day. So he kind of has a preparation, or I guess a review routine, I would say, where you kind of review things on Sundays, go everything through, narrow your objectives. Yeah, that's awesome. Preparing for the new week. And yeah, narrowing focus on which pairs you want to trade. That's something we'll talk about in the next section. So yeah, I think that's great. Like I used to literally have like a reminder in my phone every Sunday to kind of review, in my case, like some of the Mark Douglas like consistency principles. So I used to have like a more limited preparation routine kind of weekly, but I found that having one every day is also just as important. Maybe it's not as long. Like I said, it's probably 20-30 minutes for me at this point. But having that kind of, like I said, just kind of getting ready for the trading environment and having that fresh reminder, I think is super important. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any thing else in the chat that like maybe not specific chart related, but like just like general things that you found to be helpful for your preparation routine, or like things that on here that you found you like. We can maybe take a moment and see what are some of the things you guys have found that's worked well for you. Yeah, I personally like would love to go to the gym before I trade, but I live in Denver, and it's basically 2 hours before New York time. So if I'm trading pre-market some days, it's like 6:30 in the morning. So I usually work out like later in the days. So for me personally, like just having even just a 5 minutes, like kind of calming moments to do like breath exercise, really make sure I'm kind of calm and relaxed, can be helpful for me. I also do meditation like in the evenings. So that's just something that's resonated well with me, but I know a lot of people that just really like some of these other things to get themselves fully set. So yeah, these are, like I said, some of the more optional ones that I think, you can play around with, but, you could still have a pretty good trading prep routine if you didn't have some or all of these. So we'll talk some more about these core components that I think you probably should have pretty much all of these in your trading prep routine. And so one of the biggest ones, and this is going to be, again, very variable depending on kind of your strategy and your style of trading, but basically some sort of pre-trading analysis. So is this a time or a day that you should trade? I saw on a podcast recently, someone noted like if they're trading New York session, sometimes the pre-CPI day, the day before inflation news or the day before Powell talks, like is a super choppy day, and maybe they don't want to trade on those days, or maybe you've tested your strategy and like Mondays are terrible. Like, and it's a good opportunity to like reaffirm like, should I actually be trading this day or not? You definitely want to look at upcoming news events to see if that's going to impact whether you want to kind of keep your hand off the trigger that day, or wait for that to pass, or just be aware of it at least. Some of you may have like a variety of assets that you review, especially like I think in Forex, it's pretty common to have like a variety. I think crypto too, where you maybe review a bunch of different assets that you might want to trade, and maybe you have a trending strategy and you want to try to go through and see like, okay, these assets are consolidating. I don't really want to trade those today, and this one's got a really nice trend to it. I'm going to try and catch a continuation on that one, whatever it may be. Maybe there's, or even just the asset you trade. Maybe you want to try and do some prep work and see like, is this an optimal condition for me to be trading? Maybe I only trade when it comes to these really high time frame key levels. If it's not near one of those key levels, I'm not trading today. Whatever it may be. Maybe your strategy has like a top down daily buys, high time frame analysis, whatever it may be. This is just really like the prep work you can do to make sure that you've analyzed what you can, kind of coming before the session starts, making sure that you're aware of potential volatile things that may impact it, and just like kind of mark up what you can, I guess, on your charts before trading starts. I think it can be really helpful. The second thing that Matt actually really recommends, like everyone should do this, is what he calls case study reviews. And so this really is like what defines your A+ setups. A lot of you guys may have confluences or different things that you look for that you've identified help make your trading strategy, the trades like more profitable, like more likely to work out. That's what I'm trying to say. And so what defines those A+ setups versus lower probability trades? It might be helpful to review like the checklist for those trades, maybe making like a flow chart, like I look for this, and then if that's present or not, then I'm have these different outcomes. Kind of make a flow chart of your checklist, can help you visualize it, and then reviewing like a bunch of those A+ examples, like little like screenshots, whether it's from FX Replay, like just taking screenshots when you're backtesting, like dang, that was a killer trade, or like recent trades from live examples or forward testing. Either one, just like building up a portfolio of a bunch of different A+ trades so that you can like go through and visualize, okay, like I can see like this condition was there, that confluence is there, or maybe there are multiple confluences, like this is an A+ setup, and like the more you like see those before you trade, the easier it'll be to identify, like, oh, I just saw that when I was like doing my prep before trading, like I'm definitely taking this trade. It just helps you train your brain really to like know what to look for. And then if you have multiple entry triggers for your model, maybe there's a limit order versus a market order, or a couple different ways to do it. You want to have kind of the same process for each of those to make sure you're like, okay, if I'm taking continuations, this is what I'm looking for. If I'm taking reversals, this is what I'm looking for. Whatever it may be. But you want to obviously have different examples for whatever entry trigger, or maybe you're trading a couple different models. Could be, yeah, we're going to repeat that for that. And then I would say the last piece of this is, especially in your checklist, if you noticed like, from, watching yourself live recently, is there any specific details that I like am having a little bit of trouble with, or like, maybe for example, like with futures, maybe I noticed that, I trade micros, MNQ, MES or whatever, but I should be charting on the minis, NQ and ES or something like that. Or maybe I keep forgetting to like check for the invalidations, that like I shouldn't take those trades. Whatever it may be, maybe just kind of have a little check in to see like, is there anything specifically I need to try and pay a little more attention to? And then this like risk management review, I think is kind of a little bit of setting your intention, but also just like making sure you have a moment to like really think about how much you want to risk. So what Matt kind of told me is like, take a moment with yourself and just say like, I like realize that, there could be, I could take a couple losses today. I could lose, whatever it might be. Maybe I can lose, $400 today on my account, or $100 or whatever it may be. Or there might be no trades. Like, so you're setting these reasonable expectations of what could happen today. And so it's like, it's fine, like if that happens. And then also taking a moment to think like, how many potential trades can I take today? And I actually have like a fun little hack for that. I literally just started doing this like in the last couple weeks or so. But if you get like little like poker chips, I don't know, you can't really see with my camera, but little like poker chips or buttons or like tokens, or whatever it may be, like physically set them like on your desk. And so you have to like, it's like a mental cue that like, should I actually take this trade or not? Because I only have, a couple attempts today or whatever it may be. I think it's a good trick for you guys. And then you also want to think like, how much do you want to risk per trade? I mean, maybe it's a fixed dollar amount per trade, or maybe depending on if you're trading, like if you've done the back test and like you're trading a specific day that just crushes, like it's a way better win rate than all the others. Maybe you identify, okay, this day I'm okay like accepting a little risk, or vice versa. If this is a day that's not as profitable, maybe it's a good time to scale down, or the market currently is just a little choppy, maybe you scale down, something like that. But also like setting a daily risk, I think is super important so that you don't have the blow ups, because that's something a lot of people struggle to. You might have, I want to try to just risk this much per trade, but something happens and you go beyond that for whatever reason. And there's a lot of tools to help with that specifically. So if you are trading on futures, whether it's Top Step or Tradeovate or something like that, you can like literally go into your account and set like the max risk for the day, or the risk per trade and stuff like that. Like take advantage of those tools, because they can help you like protect you from yourself. And I think with Forex, like there's expert advisors on the like MT4, MT5 side. I think like I actually did a video on the risk management guide in the Discord. And there's a EA I talk about for like trade execution that also has similar risk settings where you can say like, max trades per day, max risk per day. So take advantage of these tools that are available to help like enforce the risk limits that you have for yourself. It can be really, really helpful and save you from those like big blow up days. And then lastly, it's really just like those final logistics. Like, am I logged into my charts? Am I logged into my brokers? Do I have, my water, my, coffee, whatever it might be? Have I had breakfast? If you have somewhat of a dynamic risk, maybe you want to adjust the settings in your drawing tools, your long or short tools, to set the like risk for, $200 or whatever it may be a little bit ahead of time, so that they're like ready to go. And yeah, just like literally just making sure like, okay, everything's checked off. I'm ready to go. I, shouldn't have any distractions. I've already walked the dogs, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think if you can incorporate some or all of these things into your trading prep routine, it'll take a little time to like, build a, whatever, a PowerPoint or some notebook or whatever you want to go through. But once you've done it, it shouldn't really take too long to go through all of this, and you'd be surprised like how much it can help reinforce like the proper execution you should be doing and prevent you from doing the things you shouldn't. So I think that's it for the most part. I have, like I said, in the appendix, I love Mark Douglas's Trading the Zone book. He has a ton of great principles about what to expect from the markets that I like. I personally have these on sticky notes on my wall, so it's something that I review daily at this point. And then also, just like I said, kind of tips at the bottom that I mentioned to you guys, just setting, I might lose a couple trades today. That's totally fine. Or there might be no trades today. That's also fine. I tell myself like, as long as I focus on only taking high probability setups, that's totally fine. I expect my edge to play out favorably over time. So just setting like, kind of having that moment with yourself to like set reasonable expectations and, positive expectations over time. And like I said, the mental cues and stuff can help. So yeah, I wanted to take a little time now to open up some Q&A. So a couple of questions in the chats. Is it possible to access these slides? Yeah, so I just shared it in the chat, and then for those of you watching this recording later, we'll have a link to the materials so you guys can come back and revisit it later. You guys are welcome to ask questions outside of this specific topic. Hopefully it's trading related, but yeah, we can definitely open up to some other questions too. So OGC asked, how many % do you risk per trade, and do you swing or scalp? So there's a really great resource on that in Discord in the guide section. It's like a risk management discussion / I think the prop firm guide. And I did a video a while back where I talk about what risk per trade do I use on my back test, how does that change, and, depending on what prop firm I'm doing or something. And basically there's a high level, there's a really great tool called the Risk of Ruin that you can take this statistics from your back test. What's the win rate, what's the average risk to reward, and also what are the constraints you have with your prop firm. Maybe you can only lose 10%, or with futures, maybe you can only lose 4%. And you can input these values into the tool to really get some probabilities, and it helps you like set an appropriate risk per trade to like give you the best chance of like statistically you shouldn't blow these accounts, or if you want to go a little more aggressive, obviously you can do more. So it really depends kind of what you're doing. I think when I was doing CFD prop firms, late 2023, early 2024, if I had like 10%, maybe I would do 1% per trade. It's like kind of pretty consistent that I was doing. I think a lot of people do like a tenth of the risk they have. But with some of the futures accounts where you have like more strict drawdown, it's usually even a little lower than, because you don't have as much risk to lose or anything. So yeah, I think check out that resource and let me know if you have questions when you go through that. But I think it should really help you. And there's also really good resources in there about how do you execute with proper risk per trade, whether it's futures or CFDs. There's tools within TradingView or expert advisors on MT4, MT5 that you can kind of use to make sure you're using proper risk management. So I think that'll be really helpful. And I might also after this show you guys like how you can actually like lock lock the risk on those, because I think that's also important. But it's usually in the settings you can like lock how much risk per trade or anything like that. And then yeah, I think your last question was, do I swing or scalp trade? I day trade currently with futures, so I'm trading intraday. But you could obviously do whatever works best for you. So a few more questions. What's your sentiment on the top-down analysis towards having clarity on the entry at lower time frames? So I didn't really go through any formal like ICT education or anything like that. So personally, for me, like most of the time, the strategies that I've traded have been something that I'd rather have something that works best in like any market condition, whether we're trending to the upside, trending to the downside, we're kind of chopping back and forth. And like I've put in the time and hours to back test all of those market conditions so that like I kind of know that my edge should play out like decently well in whatever condition. And so for that reason, I don't personally do a ton of crazy, top down high time frame analysis. I think there's a few strategies that we've looked at where maybe it can be helpful. If you're like, I think like especially like the market maker buy, market maker sell model, if you're seeing those like higher time frame patterns, it can like give you more confidence and a bias to maybe hold your trades longer or something like that. But personally, I typically don't tend to have any like higher time frame analysis for the strategies that I trade, but it's mostly because I've tested that it works well in multiple conditions rather than just one or the other. So hopefully that answers your question. So just to follow up, Saeed, you asked about the risk management resource. It's in the guide section on Discord. If you're on YouTube, we also had a video, I think, discussion on risk management was what it was called. But yeah, there's a guide it's just the guides channel. It's like two up from the live stage win right now. And it's like a risk management discussion. Yeah, so check that out. It's got a lot of good information. So Fab said, last week was potentially the best week I've ever seen with the strategy I've built. I'm only allowed to take one trade a day, and last week I had 4 potential winning trades, but out of all those trades, I ended up with only 2R from a potential 12R due to greed. So I took my lesson and I moved on to next week. So there's a lot of good stuff to digest with this. I think a great reflection, obviously, first off, and thank you for sharing that. A lot of people are happy to share their wins, but not, the shortcomings. And so I think it's really important to talk about that. So the first thing I'll say is literally like every human being is typically going to underperform your strategy. We're not robots. And so like, I think when I talked to Matt, he was like, you need to have like a reasonable expectation, like long term. After you've worked on a lot of stuff, like you're still gonna not meet your strategy 100%. And so like you need to have a reasonable expectation that I'm probably not going to catch every single trade, and that's okay. I'm just going to try and catch as many as I can and execute as well as I can. But with that, I think there's a lot of good opportunities. You say like it's due to greed. And so when you think about that specifically, what specific elements were causing that greed? Like, did you not hold the trade to its full? Did you close the trade too early, and then maybe you were chasing some gains you missed, or maybe you missed a trade in general and you were feeling kind of FOMO from it. So whatever like specific things like that you can identify led to that gap between like your edge and your performance. Those are the things that like Matt's profit playbook thing, where you want to say like, okay, my goal this week is anytime I see a trade from my edge and I'm like at my computer, I'm going to try and take it. Try and take as many trades as you can from your edge. Maybe that's your specific goal for the week. Try and increase that hit rate. And then on the flip side, for people that maybe they're taking too many discretionary trades, maybe you want to focus on a very specific goal to try and only take trades from your strategy and really make that your core focus, like for the week. Really, like, it's crazy, like, how focusing on those little things can really help. But yeah, again, in another podcast, like they talked about Kobe Bryant, like every season he would have a very specific fundamental thing that he would work on, whether it was footwork, free throws, mid-range, um, you know, anything passing, like any like specific, probably not passing because it was Kobe, but he would like have a very specific focus each season. And like obviously over time that stuff compounds. And so as a trader, I think it's really important to think of very specific things that you want to focus on and take a week, take a month, whatever it may be, to really try and overcome that problem. And then again, that as the preparation routine said, like you can kind of say, okay, I've worked on this, I've worked on this, I've worked on this. Like I can reinforce that I'm good at this stuff, and now I want to focus on this next thing, whatever it may be. I think that's a really like cool stage to be in. That's like kind of the stage that I'm going through myself right now, is like really identifying and tackling those problems. But it only comes from like getting that data on yourself and like why am I why am I falling short for my edge, and like identifying that stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. So a little more context, he said, I was actually in all of them. I was trying to meet a consistency rule in the funded accounts. So it didn't take any profit. So yeah, the rules can be a little challenging. So there's FOMC on Wednesday, so there's some news events that were kind of maybe causing issues, and yeah, there's a war breakout, so kind of unexpected news that caused a win. And so maybe just like a more volatile than usual environment. And so that's where I feel like being aware of the planned and potential unplanned news events, like everyone should be aware that like we have Trump in office right now, so it can be a very like literally you could tweet something and the markets can do something. So just being like aware that like that's the environment we're in. And again, with the war conflicts, like there can be things that happen kind of randomly too. And obviously as traders, we need to focus on what we have control of. And so like don't beat yourself up if something like that happens. Hopefully you can stick to your good risk management and make sure that you protect those stop losses. Like make sure you set stop losses, obviously. But yeah, Said, hopefully I'm glad you're getting some out of it. It's good to do these education calls. We mostly do backtesting streams, so we definitely want to try and fold in some more of these education streams over time too. So yeah, it seems like there could be a number of things, Fabs, that you want to like go back and think through, like, what are some execution things I can focus on, or, what specific things do I want to try and focus? But yeah, I would say the biggest thing is try not to fix everything at once, because you're probably not going to fix anything if you do that. Try and like reflect on, okay, maybe I've identified, and don't just think about this week. Think about obviously, weeks prior as well. What are some things I've consistently seen that I'm having a little bit of a hard time with? Make a list of those and then try to just tackle like kind of one at a time. I think that'll be your best bet. So yeah, a lot of good context, and yeah, we've still got some time. If you guys have other questions about trading preparation routines, execution, we can just kind of hang on for a little bit longer, do a little more execution. So for discounts on FX Replay, I think they recommend you open up a ticket in Discord, and they can send you like what the latest deal is for that. There should be in the support section, place for you to open a ticket, so you can just do that. I don't know actually what the latest promo is. I like to always take advantage of the year-long Black Friday deals, so I've like had a 2-year pro plan for like forever. So yeah, check that out. Oh my gosh, so my Fab said my phone also died yesterday when I was about to close the trade. Yeah, so I think that's probably like a more of a contingency plan. Like, how do you make sure you can, if the power goes out or something, what do you do in those cases? But charge your phone. That's like probably an easy solution to that. But yeah, like I think that's probably honestly a great thing to visualize as well. Like that's like a perfect example of something that like your phone died, you're freaking out, you're in a very like emotional reactive state, and maybe it's helpful in a preparation routine to like think through, okay, like what happens if, I get a call and I gotta run out to help a friend, or like my phone dies, or I drop my phone and the screen cracks. Like you can kind of think through any like adverse conditions, and like how can I best react to those so that when they happen you're like not freaking out as much. Um yeah, it just like can be helpful to, but yeah, sometimes they have to happen to you for you to like think, okay, like that's definitely triggering for me. I need to think about that a bit. But yeah, like Fab said, FX replay is really like a shortcut to your trading routine. I 100% agree. Like, screen time is ultimately one of the most important things for us as traders, and anything you can do to accelerate that is going to be helpful. So with backtesting, obviously you can get hundreds of reps within a few days or a few weeks or a month, versus live trading, maybe you're only taking a couple trades a day, a few trades a week, which is just as important. Like the live screen time is super super important, but really building that portfolio of A plus setups, and really getting comfortable with your data in multiple market conditions is going to be super helpful over time too. So, but yeah, with that, we'll probably wrap it up today. Thanks guys for all the interaction. It's so much more helpful, like hearing what works well for you guys. What are some things you're working on? And yeah, the whole point is we want to try and figure this out together and try to, just keep getting slightly better over time, till we get better and better at it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this stream and hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you guys later. See you guys.